A Virginia school system has suspended circulation of 2 books from their library after a mother expressed concern about their explicit material.
Both of these books include pedophilia.
There are children in the audience here.
Do not interrupt my time. Do not interrupt my time.
I would like to remind everybody.
I will stand here until my time is restored and my time is finished.
But why were these books on the school shelves in the first place?
We are very close to the return of Jesus Christ, but in the meantime, we must keep fighting to protect our children from the agents of Satan who are working covertly to corrupt young children.
This is like the archetype of diversity, inclusion, and equity material that it's one of the books that was just recently purchased for our libraries. It's in Romig and Bartlett. It's called Let's Talk About It by Erica Moen. So it's got one of the chapters in here is about sexting. And I'll just read some of the text here. So before you start sending your naughty masterpieces around the world, take some time to get friendly with photo editing software and apps. Digital photos are permanent and impossible to retract once they're out there. So keep your recognizable features out of them before you share them. This is a book for kids. Don't forget to crop out your face, hide your birthmarks and scars, and edit out your piercings and tattoos. And don't forget to tell your sweetie how hot they look. Let them know you appreciate the little gift they've sent you.
Mr. McDonald?
Yes?
Yeah, I'm going to interrupt you at this point. It sounds like you have a concern about a book. I'd be glad to connect you to the superintendent and their team to go through the appropriate process.
I'd appreciate if you don't interrupt my time.
Mr. McDonald, I've asked you to defer to the superintendent and their team if you have a concern about a book. We have a procedure and a process and a team ready to assist you if you'd like.
Mr. President, I don't think he's violated any rules. I mean, he hasn't used pornography. I mean, he hasn't shown any pornography. He hasn't shown any bad words, offensive words.
Ironically, the school board president freaks out that a dad is reading a provocative book and moves to shut him down.
By a vote of 5-2, the ruling is upheld. So, Mr. McDonald, if you have any other items to testify on, you're welcome to do so.
Well, yeah, sure. I mean, I keep getting cut off when I just read these books that are there's still purchase orders out for these books. Like they're not old things that were just put on the shelves to rot. Like they're things that you're actively procuring, putting in class. The first book that I read, I'm going to bring some of the FOIA documents that I have next time I'm in here. But there's teachers that are actually using it on their reading list in their classroom as part of their class material. So I don't want to hear that we're not giving this to kids. You got to understand that distribution of indecent and pornographic materials to minors is a Class C felony. I hope that people understand that. So if there's the argument that, well, it's loosely covered by the First Amendment, and that's what you're doing, that's what you're hiding behind to get this to students in school, then how can you say I don't have First Amendment rights to just read this to adults at a school board meeting? Is it or is it not a First Amendment issue? I don't understand how it's appropriate for kids and it's not appropriate for the school board. I didn't even say a bad word. It feels a lot like you don't want parents to be seeing what's given to the kids. You're happy to give this to children. I've seen you. I mean, you even host reading times on the weekends. What's your reading list when you host reading time on the weekends with Felix? You're happy to give these books to kids. It seems like you're terrified to give them to parents. And I think it's an absolute travesty that you cut off my time and don't even let me have my 3 minutes. I think you're breaking your own rules. Thank you.
There's some of these things that can't coexist. They're logically inconsistent with one another, but the only thing that holds them together is critical theory and cultural Marxism. That's it. That's the only thing that holds them together. Beyond that, some of the acronyms are mutually exclusive and almost at war with one another. But they're part of the same critical social justice movement. They're part of the same application of critical theory, part of the same application of cultural Marxism, and therefore they have the same goals, and that keeps them bonded together. Right now, we're seeing it expanded and expressed in our schools through a number of things, but perhaps most covertly through what's called SEL, or social emotional learning. And you may have heard of SEL, you may have heard of this whole social emotional learning push within the government education system. And it is the Trojan horse that right now is advancing critical theory, cultural Marxism, and specifically sexual identity Marxism among kids at every level, K through 12.
What's happening in many schools across America that many parents are unaware of is shocking at best and purely satanic at worst.
It all started with an assignment given to that CCSD student. Her mother says she was required to memorize pornographic content and then recite it in front of the entire class. When Kendra Evans took the podium and started reading the material, CCSD board members stopped the public comment over the explicit language. Now, we do have that video for you right now. Take a listen to what unfolded.
I ask you simply, this is a public meeting. I ask for decorum, and I'm asking Dr. Jara. Thank you so much, Dr. Jara.
If you don't want me to read it to you, what was that like for my 15-year-old daughter to have to memorize pornographic material and memorize it and portray?
Madam President, members of the board, staffs on this, we can have the region superintendent speak.
Thank you so much, Dr. Jara. It seems like you may have some concerns, and while we're not allowed to engage back and forth in a dialogue, we would absolutely like to make sure that your concerns are addressed.
Now you can see in the video, it does appear that Evans's mic was temporarily turned off. She was then allowed to continue addressing the school board, saying that she didn't want the teacher fired, but hopes that by addressing the matter, the problem won't happen again.
And it's time for American parents to rise and protect their kids. Please pay close attention to what this brave sixth grader says about the school librarian as he reads from a book he borrowed from the school library.
Hi, my name's Knox Zajac. I'm 11 years old and I go to Windham Middle School. I'm a sixth grader. I was in the library and this book was on a stand. I'd like to read you a page. My back over my hips as I ask if we should take our clothes off. And he's saying yes before I finish my sentence. He's pulling off my t-shirt, laughing when I can't undo his shirt buttons. He's undoing my belt. I'm reaching into his bedside drawer for a condom. We're kissing. Again, we're rolling over. Obviously, you can see where this is going. I don't know if it's because we're feeling especially emotional or just tired, or these past couple of weeks have been too much. But this reminds me so much of the first time we had sex. We were both fucking terrified, and the whole thing was kind of terrible because we didn't know what we were doing. But it was good too, so good, because we were a mess of emotions, and we were scared and excited, and everything felt new. So this sort of feels like that. Nick touches me like he's scared that any minute. Now, this book was at my middle school, and it was on a stand. When I rented it out to show my dad it, the librarian asked if I wanted more and if I wanted a graphic novel version.
This is an urgent call to Christian parents and grandparents. We have a short window to overturn this demonic over-sexualization of our young kids in schools. Thankfully, we are learning about this ungodly development because a brave dad is actively involved in his son's life. This underscores why every child needs a godly father in their life.
Oh boy. So I'm that kid's father.
Okay, good. I was asking for you.
Yeah, I'll take another 3 minutes. So that's my son.
Okay.
11 years old, and went to his library and found that by the entry door of our library, this is the smut that he is finding, all right? I don't care whether it's gay, straight, bisexual, whatever the terms are for all this stuff, doesn't need to be at our school. Doesn't need to be at my 11-year-old's library. And then as far as genderqueer, I've got a son in the high school as well. And this is, we know it, all right? We do not need to be having literature that's showing boys how to suck, all right? This is, I'm very, very frustrated about it, okay? And you may think that schools know the best for our children. You know who know the best for our children? The parents. So like I said, listen to the parents. I can tell you right now, I don't work anymore, and I will be more than happy to focus my time and effort to the security of my child and children in this school. All right? I will be a thorn in your sides. So I just want you to be aware of what you've woken. Okay? I'm sure that a lot of you guys are fine and great people and have nothing but the best intentions for our children. But by the fact that this has to take 4 months for a school to get this book out of the library is ridiculous. The parents are here right now and they're speaking, and you need to listen and do something about it quickly.
We are short of words to explain how the school would allow pornographic books in their library. Why is the school administrator not held accountable for exposing kids to something this vile and demonic?
Read an article this week produced by Michigan State University Department of Science, and they came out with the fact that there are currently on the internet 4 million pornographic websites. 4 million being trafficked on a daily basis by 80 million people. More people are tuned into those websites than everybody on Netflix, Twitter, and Amazon combined. What are they looking for? Well, if you ask them, they would be looking for some kind of gratification, some kind of love, some kind of meaningful relationship. It's a fool's paradise. They're like Ponce de Leon trying to find the fountain of youth. It's not there. They give themselves to a person for a little while. They give themselves to a certain behavior for a little while, and it comes up dry, it comes up empty, and they're more deeply wounded than they were before they experienced that, and it just adds another scar to them and makes them a step more jaded toward the reality of ever finding true love.
In this video, another concerned parent reads out loud a book from the school library. Watch how a school board member quickly interrupts the mother by claiming that kids are watching online and could find the words inappropriate. What irony and hypocrisy.
Here's an excerpt, and I'm going to really try to be careful so I don't get kicked out. Excited now, he pushed into her. As she squeezed her eyes and tightly as she could, her tongue circled her lips. He pushed harder, his breath heavy and labored. She scratched his back, and he cried out. She bit his ear and pulled his hair. There's a lot more to it. It's 50 Shades of Grey and CCSD.
Excuse me.
Yes.
We have children at home.
I
It's live streaming, and it's really not appropriate.
Don't you find the irony in that? You're exactly saying exactly what I'm telling you.
If you're new to our channel, please subscribe, like, and leave a comment. They help get biblical truth to those in darkness. God bless you. For anyone who thinks they will cause young children to stumble and get away with it, listen to Jesus' stern warning in Matthew 18, verses 5 to 6. And whoso shall receive one such little child in my name receiveth me. But whoso shall offend one of these little ones which believe in me, it were better for him that a millstone were hanged around his neck, and that he were drowned in the depth of the sea. Sadly, exposing kids to sexual materials is happening all over schools in America. Thankfully, many parents have had enough and are fighting back. We can't help but wonder why schools would allow graphic books in the library but won't allow the Ten Commandments or the Bible to be read in schools. The devil is using elected officials and school administrators to corrupt students' minds.
We need to think about sex from a biblical perspective, not just from an anti-cultural perspective. Our approach to human sexuality can't be limited to they do this, therefore we don't do it, or they do this, therefore we do that. We have to have something more significant. God also sets the parameters for sex. God sets the male-female parameter for sex. And God sets the marriage parameter for sex. We see this elsewhere as well, 1 Thessalonians 4:3. For this is the will of God, your sanctification, that you abstain from sexual immorality. Earlier in this same book, in chapter 6 of 1 Corinthians, Paul deals with this issue beginning in verse 12. All things are lawful for me, but not all things are helpful. The body is not meant for sexual immorality, not meant for, not made for, not created for, not designed for, but for the Lord, and the Lord for the body. And God raised the Lord and will also raise us up by his power. Do you not know that your bodies are members of Christ? Or do you not know that your body is a temple of the Holy Spirit within you, whom you have from God? You are not your own, for you are bought with a price. So glorify God in your body. And more specifically, glorify God in your sex life.
Last thing we would like to add, protect your kids through prayer. Pray for them, but also pray with them regularly. There is power in prayer. Commit them to the Lord and pray that God will dispatch his angels to watch over them. Take heed that ye despise not one of these little ones. For I say unto you, that in heaven their angels do always behold the face of my Father which is in heaven. Matthew 18, verse 10. May the Lord guide and protect our children in this dark and evil world. Amen.